Hi guys, very good evening. And I hope all of you just finished your exams. All of you are reaching or on your way home from the center, and some of you may even be curious about how IPMAT Indore would be next year. So we are going to start with the analysis for IPMAT Indore 2024, which just concluded at 4 o'clock across the entire country. We managed to speak to a few students, like the best of the best that we have, who've been doing very well in IMS mocks. So we spoke to a few students, and whatever data we have from trusted sources, so you don't need to worry about it. Okay. So yeah, let's begin with the analysis. Okay, so the paper pattern was similar to what it was communicated, to what how it was expected. The short answer section had 15 questions, MCQ had 30, and VA had 45 questions. The time limit, the marking scheme, everything was same. No surprises here. The surprises start now. uh, uh, Test interface was smooth and no difficulties were reported across the centers we've had. I hope you tuned into Yeah, so I hope you tuned into our first impressions, and we had people speaking to us from different cities: Delhi, Gujarat, Bhopal, Pune, Bombay, everywhere. Okay, so no technical difficulties were reported at any particular city, so that was quite smooth. Okay, so let's go to the short answer section. Short answer section. This was the rough split what we could gather of the 15 questions. Okay. Numbers factors had one question. Arithmetic and SICI especially, there were three questions that were asked today. One question was on ratios, so that was also there. Geometry trigo had three questions. One was on maximizing the area of a rectangle within a particular within a triangle. There was one question on coordinate geometry also. There was one question on another question on similarity of triangles also. So yeah, so those there were three odd questions of geometry. Logarithm, there was one straight question on the property of a raised to log of n to the base a property. So that was a straightforward question. There was one grid-based question, which you see the determinant values. The values were missing. Few values were given, few values were missing. So first you had to figure those values out and then find the determinant of that particular matrix. Okay. The biggest surprise in this section this year was that there was a set-based question, which has never come in IPMAT Indore essay section so far. Okay, there were three questions on finding out medians and all. Most of the students that we spoke to found this particular surprise a little tricky to handle. So overall, also, in fact, what was expected was that essay section traditionally has been slightly difficult than MCQ, but today the tables were turned. Essay was relatively easier than MCQ, barring these three questions on the median. Okay, there was one question on in the geometry. I just remembered there was one question about that the perimeter of a triangle is 15 and how many such triangles are possible. So pretty simple that way, straightforward questions. There was one question on functions. Which was also not difficult to figure out. So overall, we found, our students found this section to be easier. So I not very difficult as we have been used to, as we've been known, from the history of the IPMAT Indore mock. So we feel that 10 plus should be a good attempt. We feel that cutoff might climb up to 2024 from the past year cutoff of 12. So 5-6 questions should be the cutoff this year. At least I and a good score or a safe score would be 32 plus. So we would assume that 8-9 questions correctly done would definitely be safer. this year. Last year, the tables were a little different, but this year, because this section was easy, we expect this section's cutoff at least to climb up by 1 or 2 more questions. So we feel 5 to 6 questions will be 5 to 6 questions getting correct will be the cutoff, and roughly 8-9ish should be a safe score for the short answer section. Yeah. So moving on to the MCQ section. MCQ section again, vis-a-vis last year was difficult. Okay, one set, the last set that we always see, this set was tricky this year. Up till now, in fact, every year this set has been the easiest part of the section and highlight of the section. People would always want to go to that set and do that first. This year, that set was a slightly tricky set on voters and across different cities and all of that. So yes, that was a little tricky. There was one question on the numbers of 2 raised to 300 and 3 raised to 200, which was, I think, directly, which was very similar to IMS material. So a lot of students were reported as that. There was one question on the number of factors present in a particular number. So that was also easy from the arithmetic part, from the numbers part. Sorry. In the arithmetic part, there were 1 or 2 questions on SICI, 1 or 2 questions on one very simple question on percentages also was asked. Okay, there was one question on boats and streams, particularly from the time, speed, and distance chapter. So roughly 1 or 2 questions. So overall, we would say at least 4 or 5 questions of arithmetic were still there. Unlike essay section where we see arithmetic questions every year, essay did not have arithmetic much, but MCQ had arithmetic. Geometry, trigo, and coordinate geometry had around 6 questions from these chapters. Geometry again was a little tricky. Trigo, there were 2 questions directly on the properties of trigo and pure trigo at that. So that was a little tricky again. Logarithm had in fact 1 question directly on the basis of log. All simple properties of log had to be used, but yes, it's an out and out logarithm question. Indices question, as I said earlier, there was 1 question on finding out which of the numbers are greater, and the numbers were raised to powers. Okay, so that was that. Linear quadratic equation, 1 or 2 questions again, word problems, linear equations to be formed, and then solve to get the number of the roots and all of those. So that was also a little tricky. Functions and graphs, APGP, binomial. There was. I don't think we saw a question, but functions and graphs and APGP, there were 2 to 3 questions. F of g of x was given and g of f of x was asked or something like that. So it was a little tricky. They were not very straightforward functions where you just substitute the values as you normally do in functions and get to the answer. So yes, that way this was a little tricky. Okay. Set theory, probability, PNC, this particular chapter, they had questions from PNC also, from probability also, and in fact set theory also. Set theory question was straightforward, not difficult. This was an easy question. You could have done through Venn diagram, you could have done it through the normal algebraic properties also, and that also would have worked perfectly fine. Okay, matrices determinants, again 1 question was asked. So in fact, again, to the surprise of a lot, the chapters of functions, graphs, matrices, determinants were slightly lesser questions from this vis-a-vis what you must have seen the trend in the last 3 to 4 years. So yeah. But overall, we would say the sectional level was difficult. Good score, good attempts would be 15ish. I would say would be safe. Expected cutoff, we think it should be in lower 30s. 31, 32 should be the cutoff. This section, because it was a little difficult than expected, I don't think the cutoff will go very high. Last year's cutoff of this section was 39. We feel that this year it may slide down to lower 30s. Okay, so 15 questions if you have attempted, maybe 2 or 3 questions wrong. So 13 into 3, 39 minus 2, 35, 37ish should be a safe score, 37, 38. Okay, but yeah, so this had you prepared yourself mentally for the surprises that you see in the exam, it would not have been very difficult to handle. But yes, it was a little tricky thing for students to handle sitting in the exam. Moving on to the last section, general English. We found this section to be, traditionally it has been easy. This year we found this section tad bit difficult, slightly difficult than last year. Okay, two passages, one on pollution, one on anxiety. The anxiety passage was very lengthy, but the good part was it had all the direct questions. The pollution passage had indirect questions, anxiety passage had direct questions, and questions were quite manageable. But yes, you ultimately still end up, putting your time to read through the passages. And in Indore, verbal section, every minute spent is going to be very, 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 very crucial. So yes, that takes away a little bit of your time. What we understood was the parajumbles were very, very tricky. Out of four, two parajumbles were 5 sentence parajumbles and two or 4 sentence parajumbles. They were very, very confusing. Most of the students found it difficult, not very straightforward. Vocab, grammar, and para completion had confusing options. So if you're not really attentive, you're not at your full concentration, you may go wrong in such questions. And remember that this section is after the unpleasant surprise of a very difficult MCQ section. So after that, when you go into general English section, it becomes a little difficult to still have your concentration. But yes, for people who are used to writing mocks, people who are used to having your concentration at the top of your head through all the time, I think this section was manageable. Okay, so we think it was easy to moderate, or somewhere between moderate and easy, not straightforward easy, we would say. Slightly difficult is what we would think. Last year's cutoff of this section was around 120s. This year, we think expected cutoff should be slightly lesser, just under 120. So 115 to 120 should be the 115 to 118 should be the cutoff. Good score, a safe score would be 130 plus. So an attempt of around 40, 42-ish, I think will be definitely safe. But yes, so cutoff should be around 115, 180. Okay. So para completion. So just quickly going through the table, fill in the blanks. There were 4 to 5, para completion 5 to 6, and underline part 5 to 6. So these were the parts where the students found it difficult. Idioms and phrases. Lot of students. We are happy to report that lot of students said that these were the ones that they had seen in the IMS mock. So they were not really surprised or nothing out of the ordinary in the exam. Okay, parajumbles, as I told you earlier, were a little tricky, were a little confusing, but broadly, I think it was all right. So out of the 45 questions, we think 35 plus 37-ish, I think should be good attempt. But yeah, cutoff I think will go slightly lesser than last year. So yeah, overall analysis. What we thought, essay section, 10 attempts, 10 or more than 10 should be good. Good score should be around 32-ish or a slightly maybe 36 or 40. But cutoff I think will climb to 24 from 12. Okay. MCQ again, 15 questions because it was slightly difficult. MCQ 15 would have been a good attempt this year. 48 is what we are thinking should be a safe score or a good score. 31 to 34 should be the cutoff. Lower 30 should be the cutoff for MCQ. Verbal ability again, 115 to 118 should be the cutoff. 130 should be a good score. Overall score does not really matter, but we think 210-ish, if you clear all the cutoffs, should be a safe score. So yes, broadly, the highlights were essay was easier than anticipated, and MCQ and verbal both were slightly difficult than anticipated. MCQ a little more difficult than anticipated. Verbal slightly difficult than anticipated. So yeah, that was the analysis in a nutshell. Okay. I really hope that you've done well and you've given all that you could have, so that there are no regrets later. Whether you clear the cutoff or not, whether you get the call or not, is a different thing. But it's important that you really do well and you are happy with your performance. Next step is going to be, obviously, for all those who get selected, will be the preparation for personal interview. Okay. Just a reminder that Indore does not have an overall cutoff. It has sectional cutoffs. So everybody who clears all the three sections cutoffs will get a call for the PI. So yeah, I hope you gotten something back from the analysis. I think you've gotten a fair picture of what the cutoffs are going to be. So yeah, I think we can end it here. In case you have any questions, I'm happy to take it in the comments in maybe the last 1 or 2 minutes. So the cutoffs for other colleges, we would declare it in some time. But yes, what we spoke about was broadly the IIM in the cutoff. So yeah, I think that should be it for now. All the very best for your upcoming exams, the GIPMAT exam, and all the best for your PI call. Also, I hope you guys make it, and I hope we meet again for your PI preparation. See you guys.